what do we have here? Now, I don't know if y'all can read that good, but there's a sign out front, and it says, "No trespassing on my property." Wait a minute. I know y'all. I reckon you're here to get your daily dose of motivation. Well, I'll be on Monkey's Queef. Howdy, I'm Matthew Lowe, and this is my horse, Gluteus Maximus. Nice to meet you. Well, I've got some sheep to have sex with, so y'all have yourself a good evening now, you hear? Adios, motherfuckers! I'm not going to play around too much. I know I like to mess around in the beginning of my videos, but clearly I already did that with the weird intro that I made. I like to think that, if I do these stupid things that I find to be ridiculous, if I do them and they entertain anybody else besides myself, that's awesome. But if I'm being honest, I do most of my comedy for myself, and it does make me laugh because I find myself to be quite a silly little bitch. I am a silly, silly bitch and a silly goose. Anyway, the dude in the beginning of this video, who clearly is not me, it's some kind of Skittles cowboy of some sort, he was trying to tell you that this is episode 83 of your daily dose of LoweTivation, and it's about communication, which he didn't communicate very well. But I just wanted to spit at you real quick my experience with communication as far as physical and mental health journeys go. If anybody knows for sure that holding everything in and not talking about what you're going through, not communicating in that form, very, very tough to find any progress in your life, very tough to vent, very tough in general. I held a lot of stuff in. I didn't communicate with people. I would get very angry and I'd take it out. So when I would finally communicate, I would just unleash this fury of emotions that I was holding up inside. Because I wouldn't want anybody to think that there was something wrong with me or that I was going through anything. I wanted them to think that I was sane and I wouldn't communicate at all. And just any relationship that you're in, whether it's a family, it's a significant other, communication is very, very important. But here's the thing. You can communicate all day long. So maybe you do have a good stream of communication going back and forth with the people that you care about, friends, family, coworkers, whatever. You can listen all day and you can talk back and forth all day, but there's also, like my last video, a couple videos ago, I was talking about execution, right? If you're gonna talk, if you're gonna have this communication, you gotta execute though. Sometimes you gotta execute. You gotta walk the walk, not just talk the talk. So communication is very important. You can vent a lot of the things that you're going through. I do it all the time, and I feel so much better for it. I mean, these videos right here, documenting my life. This is communication. Whether one person watches this video or it's just me watching it later to see what I was going through on this day. It's communication, and maybe I'm just communicating with my past self, or maybe I'm communicating with you, and maybe it's hitting a chord, inside of you, and maybe you're changing your life, and that's great. I'm choosing to communicate. I got a lot of crazy stuff still going on up in here, but I'm communicating, I'm putting my message out there, and I'm hoping somebody sees it, and if no one does, I get to watch my silly, silly little goose self being ridiculous. So, communication, very, very important. Like I said, talking to a therapist, talking to friends, family, just keeping that open line and letting people know what you're going through can be very, very helpful. And somebody else, you might be going through something that you can't figure out, and somebody else might know because you communicated with them, and then they can communicate with you later. Maybe they'll figure something out for you. You never know, but networking, when it comes to your mental health and your physical health, not a bad thing. You can communicate online, on your phone. I mean, nobody really talks anymore these days, but you can text people. But like I said, online, there's groups all over the place. Communication, Very, very important. And like I said, when I became very, very depressed and had all this anxiety, a lot of it kept me locked up in my room. I wasn't communicating with anybody, maybe on the internet here and there, but not even really there. And so locking myself down, not communicating with people was very unhealthy for me. Unless you want to be a hermit, I guess it could be healthy for you, but most people want that human connection. And if you're going to have that human connection, you're going to have to communicate with people, let people know what's up. You know, a lot of the times when it comes to relationships with anybody, I feel like things get so much worse because people aren't communicating. And I did that a lot in some of my past relationships with a significant other. You know, you might be mad about something they're doing and you just don't communicate it. Or maybe you do communicate, but you're not giving the full communication. So you say it's okay, but you don't talk it out, you don't figure it out, and you can squash things. I mean, I'm sure you probably know this, but I'm just saying, you can squash a lot of things before they get way worse. And I know it's awkward. It's so awkward and so weird sometimes to be an adult. And believe me, like you saw in the beginning of this video, I'm not very good at being an adult sometimes. But when it comes to the important things, I recently have been trying to grow up a little bit, and I've found that being an adult and actually talking to the people that I care about in the hard situations, it's like ripping a Band-Aid off, and it's so much easier when it comes to mental health, especially because I know that if I don't communicate with people, I get inside of my own head and I make situations way worse, especially because I have anxiety and I start leaning towards the negative. And so I just assume that the situation is a certain way. And then when you communicate finally and it all explodes, it's way insane looking because it's not even close to what I thought it was inside my own head. So for a healthier mental situation, I have definitely seen results by squashing things right away and talking with people as soon as I feel like something's wrong. So if you just let it fester and you let it get worse, it's not healthy and usually causes a lot of problems. Could just be even problems in your own head. So communication, having an open line. I can tell you right now, if you're not one of those people that like to communicate with others because it's just awkward, if you do it, the more that you do it, just like everything else I've talked about, you know, like getting out of your house because you're socially awkward, talking to people, talking to strangers, it's not that fun, it's awkward, it's weird, we're used to being on our phones, we're used to social media and that other weird conscious that's not out loud and talking through our mouth. But I'm telling you, the more that you do it, the easier it gets. So having that communication, definitely good for all sorts of relationships and really good for your mental health. And I'm seeing a lot of progress by doing these videos and communicating with you guys and just forcing myself to talk to strangers and talking to friends more often and squashing all that beef before it gets all crazy. So communicate, get out there, talk with people. Let's do this. Talk to me. Ha ha.